Hello and welcome to Pod Meets World. I'm Paul.
I'm Dave.
And I'm Justin.
And this week we're discussing the episode... Oh, bollocks. Life Lessons. This episode originally aired February 23rd, 1996 with unknown viewership because Mall Irish couldn't find it. So, number one movie in America this week. Any guesses? I'll give you a hint.
It's not The Broken Arrow.
No, and it is not... I don't think it's technically an American film.
Oh.
Not an American film, eh?
I believe it was made in another country. Yes, it was.
Ooh.
And it was made the year previously.
For that, and then...
Give you a hint. It stars Jackie Chan.
Oh, I was gonna say Gojira.
No.
No.
Name a Jackie Chan film.
The one that's coming to my mind is Rush Hour, but I think that's more
No, that's
That's
years ago.
American, and that's later.
No.
I don't know.
Rumble in the Bronx.
Ooh.
Which if you haven't seen it, go watch a bunch of Jackie Chan movies.
Yeah, I
'cause they're
haven't.
great.
I've seen few, but again,
haven't seen a
how
bunch
they've gone, I'm not sure.
Okay, so number one television show on in America this week. Any guesses?
Is it the Ours?
No.
Ooh.
It's The Wheel of Fortune.
No. No. It is Seinfeld.
Oh.
WWF champion at the time?
I
Any
always
guesses?
forget this one.
Any guesses?
Is it still Bret Hart?
It is. WCW champion at the time.
That one I remember, though, with Ric Flair.
Very good. Number one song in America this week.
Still the particular one with Mariah Carey?
It is One Sweet Day by Mariah Carey and Boyz II Men.
I supposedly need to hear this because for some reason I
You
don't
don't.
even know.
No.
It's a thing.
It'll remind you of the 90s, and
David, it's very meh, in my opinion.
but apparently it's been played a lot on the radio, so that's why it's so high on the list.
Well,
I
it's Mariah Carey and Boyz II Men in 1996.
Yeah.
Nah.
It was going to be popular. Now, for video games, we have a list to go through.
A list.
Now, some of these are not going to be super popular, but a few of them are going to be huge.
Well, there were a lot of big games.
So, on February 23rd, which would be the same day this episode aired, there was Front Mission Gun Hazard on the SNES from Squaresoft, which is a game most people have probably never played. I've never heard of. However, However, a mere 4 days later, kind of a big game would get released.
Is it a Final Fantasy VI?
No.
Damn.
No. It's this little Game Boy game called Pokemon Red and Green.
Ah.
Probably never heard of it. 2 days later, on the 29th, this little Windows game would get released called Civilization 2.
Oh.
Civilization.
The Civilization ones.
On the same day as Civilization 2, a little DOS game would get released called Ripper.
DOS, eh?
Yes.
Okay.
It's an interactive movie like point and click kind of thing. Also on the 29th would be Rise 2 Resurrection, which was on Windows, Saturn, and PS1. And also on the 29th was a busy fucking day apparently, was Terra Nova Strike Force Centauri for DOS, which was a apparently critically acclaimed FPS, which I've never heard of. And also on the 29th, because I'm not done yet, there was another game called Zork Nemesis, which was apparently the 11th game in this series, and I have never heard of it.
Zoink?
Zork.
Zork. Okay.
And
Well,
it was
it
on
game's on
Windows.
February 29th.
Yes.
Nah, that was the
The
other
most
one I was
important
thinking
one
of.
obviously being Civilization 2. Because Civilization is fantastic.
Now I'm just mildly amazed that you mentioned Pokemon without saying that it didn't exist.
Well, I mean, look,
It's Gen 1.
it's Gen 1. It's the acceptable generation. Anything after that doesn't exist.
Uh-huh.
To Paul, at least.
Pokemon Red exists because I have the physical cartridge. After that, no. And don't bring up facts like that I own cartridges of other games because that's irrelevant.
I think the better question is, why do you even have them?
Well, the one I bought to review for the channel,
True, that was that one.
Okay.
and the other one I bought because it was a remake of Red.
Ah, for that.
Okay.
That makes sense.
And
Right.
because I was feeling nostalgic for playing Red. Because I spent, I don't know how many hours as a child playing Pokemon Red.
Either 100 or 200 at most.
Probably more than that.
Really?
It was the only Game Boy game I had for probably 2 years.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I probably played it 3 hours a day.
Okay.
I might have kind of liked that game. So let's get into the episode. After seeing the final schedule, Corey and Sean swear to study for the next 2 weeks. Of course they don't, and 2 days before finals begin, it feels like too much. They plan to confront Mr. Feeney on the subject and elect Corey as their leader because he bends over to pick up a quarter.
You're not a quarter.
You people are cheap. Which, very good line. He tries to talk to Feeney, but Feeney insists on his schedule. He says that the added pressure of multiple finals in one day helps students memorize the material better. Defeated, Corey turns back to his mob. Unsatisfied, Danny Burgess and his thugs, Jake and Kyle, swear revenge. That night, Corey looks out his kitchen window while studying and sees a few shadowy thugs trashing Mr. Feeney's house. They break a window and hear Feeney within and scatter. Corey notices Feeney's look of despair and feels bad. The next day, Corey learns that the act has convinced Feeney to retire. He says the number of disgruntled students... Motherfucker. Number of disgruntled students is larger than ever, and he's no longer an effective teacher. Corey bickers to Sean because Sean knew of their plan and didn't stop it from happening. Corey also admits that he feels guilty for starting the whole thing. That night, Sean finds Corey in Topanga, and they all rush to the school after he tells them that Denny has assembled an unruly mob. Also, never name your kid Denny, because I'm going to call him Denny's.
Yeah.
And trashing the school with graffiti and other assorted vandalism. Sean tells him to stop, saying that he learned from Feeney that they could peacefully assemble under the First Amendment of the Bill of Rights, but when it became violent, they broke the law. Denny cuts the chains to the school anyway, and Feeney immediately comes outside, making everyone except Corey, Topanga, and Sean run away. After hearing Sean tell of what he learned, Feeney has decided to stay and teach. The 3 students help him to begin to clean up. Meanwhile, after miscommunication, Brenda Marsh, a co-worker of Amy's and an intended blind date for Mr. Turner, shows up only to find Eric at home. She's a bit charmed by him, thinking he's Turner, but realizes her error when she sees the Matthews family portrait on the mantle. Nevertheless, she agrees to go out to dinner with Eric. Why? He's Eric.
Yeah.
Of lack of anything else to do. When Eric tells of the situation, Alan is proud of him, but Amy is appalled. She feels as though Brenda is too old and has way too much life experience for Eric. On the next date, it shows. They go to Chubby's, which doesn't impress Brenda at all. She tries to talk about Europe, but Eric's never been. Mr. Turner shows up, and Eric decides to introduce them so they can be together. Before leaving, he runs into Christy, a fellow student, and she seems like a better fit, and Eric gets dinner with her instead. Alrighty, so what'd y'all think of this episode?
Yeah. Fits fairly well with the moral of whatnot that they got across with things.
Man, those tests, why'd you put them all on the same day?
It's only 3.
Oh, it's only 3. It's all 3.
They would have had more than 3 finals.
Meh.
They probably would have had at least 5.
And then, of course...
I did 3 in one day. I didn't bitch about it.
I know. I didn't either.
But then, of course, it's the case of the school scheduling and having to figure out where other specific exams are happening. And it could have been a hell of a lot worse. It could have been all the exams all in one day.
Well, no, no school would make you do 5 finals
Exactly.
in 1 day.
It's ridiculous.
3 in a day, that's no big deal. I did that.
It's fine. But then, of course, it's the case of, let's go study. Sit down and watch TV.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of how I did studying.
I mean, in all fairness, I don't think I ever studied in high school.
I barely studied. I usually fall asleep if I'm trying to read a book.
Anyway. So the whole Eric dating Brenda thing, that was sure a B-plot, wasn't it?
Yeah, a bit.
So, why?
I don't know why.
They needed something. At the very least, Topanga was in this episode.
For about a minute.
Yeah,
showing the
maybe,
particular stresses of the person who does study and the stresses of them doing the study thing. Is this on the test, yes or no?
It's like Topanga didn't really have an active role. She was kind of just there.
Yeah, she doesn't really do anything.
Yeah.
She's just basically there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that whole Brenda Marsh thing was real dumb. And I hated it.
Yeah.
Because
At the very most, the only laugh I kind of got was at the very end with Eric and the classmate and whatnot. Is like, have you been?
Let's go study. Yeah, and then they go not study.
Just go to that. But no, it's a case of the. Have you been to Europe? No, marry me.
Yeah. So it was sure an episode that existed.
Womp.
It was fine. Alrighty. So if there's nothing else, we'll get to preview next week's episode. So next week we'll be watching the episode "I Was a Teenage Spy."
Uh-oh.
Is this gonna be one of them dream episodes?
This episode will have aired on April 26th, 1996. So quite a while after this one, about a month. Corey gets a shock when a microwave mishap transports him back to the 1950s.
Oh,
I'm not
bollocks.
done. Shut your mouth.
What
Shut
is
your
this
mouth.
bollocks?
Shut your mouths. Where his post-Cold War knowledge of Russian space experiments gets him mistaken for a spy. It's going to be bollocks, and it's going to be great.
I can somewhat understand that, but I can see the 372 ways that this could go terribly, terribly wrong.
It's going to be good.
I'm not too sure, but okay.
Also, there's going to be a guest star in this that y'all recognize. I'm not going to spoil who it is.
I have an idea.
No, you don't. You have no idea who it is.
You say guest star and there's time travel involved.
Yeah, but that's not a hint to who the guest star is.
It's not a hint?
No. So, until next time, I'm Paul.
I'm Dave.
And I'm Justin.
And we're going back in time.